strive for progress. Don't strive for perfection. Don't worry about getting the perfect photo. Just take a photo. Now, of course, there will be times where you will need to perform. Me as a wedding photographer, I can't just show up and snapshot 1,000 photos and say, here you go. There does have to be an element of skill, and you get there. But you only get there by just simply taking photos in the beginning. Don't worry about them being perfect. Just shoot. Hey, welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Today, I'm going to give you the key to what it will take for you to be the best photographer you can be in 2022. Hey everybody, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and the new year is here. Welcome to 2022. The water's warm. Go ahead and come on in. For the new year, this is a time for a fresh start. It is a time to look at our goals and our ambitions, and for you, getting better at photography is going to be just that, right? That is the goal for you. But maybe your goal is, maybe you're one step earlier. Maybe your goal is to just learn photography, right? Get started in photography. You can see how many great photos, are posted online, posted on Instagram, and you know that you can do it. So you got yourself a camera, or maybe you got one over the holidays, and now it's go time. So let's do this. Good news, if that is you, you're in the right spot. Now I want to help usher you through the threshold of learning photography. Malcolm Gladwell is credited with saying that it takes 10,000 hours of intense practice to achieve mastery of a complex skill. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that a bit discouraging, to be honest, especially when it comes to a hobby for many of us like photography, that at 10,000 hours, if you do the math, if you just practiced for an hour a day, an hour every single day, it would take you more than 27 years to master photography. Okay, now hold on. Before you tune out because it feels like I've just crushed all of your hopes and your dreams, let me frame this in a different way. Let me frame this properly. I equate something like mastery with being about as close to perfection as you can get. Okay? Now, with that being said, I also think that striving for perfection in photography is a bit of a wild goose chase. I read a quote in Chris Orwig's book recently that said, "The world needs more people who have become quiet enough to hear their call and bold enough to respond." Now, for me, that does not sound like somebody who is necessarily technically minded. And I know from experience that photography is an art form. And like all art, it just means that it is subjective. If you had an idea, any idea, you execute on that idea, whatever it is, and it turns out exactly as you had wanted it to, well, then nobody can tell you that what you have created is bad. What is bad is the goalposts that we either create for ourselves or others create for us. I want to share a story with you. In 1968, a Dr. Spencer Silver, a scientist at 3M, was tasked with making the world's strongest glue. All right, 3M was hoping to replace at least an amount of the mass quantities of hard metal fasteners on airplanes with a strong enough glue, because that could save a ton of money. It probably wouldn't be used to keep wings together, but maybe smaller pieces. Now the goal was obviously to save money, but it was also to change the world of aviation. Now, after years of tests and years of research, Dr. Silver had created the world's weakest glue. Now, did he fail to change the aviation world? He absolutely did. But what he didn't fail was the office supply world, as his super weak glue actually went on to become the adhesive to hold together the small squares of paper that we know and love today, Post-it notes. That's right, the world would not have Post-it notes if it wasn't for Dr. Silver trying to invent the world's strongest glue. Now, what does this have to do with photography? Well, just think about how many other ideas are out there that don't necessarily go according to plan, but they still have the potential to make an impact. But they just get tossed aside because, well, they failed their original idea. I bet it's a lot. And the only reason why we're tossing those ideas aside is because the goalpost was wrong. Now, don't get me wrong. Getting to the point to where you are able to form an idea and execute it to a level that is on par with your original idea, it takes a lot of time. I mean, look at Dr. Silver Spencer here. I'm sure that he was a scientist for many years, and it's still, he wasn't able to execute on his original idea. But I guess what I am trying to say is that I don't think that Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours, I don't think that 27 years of repetition is needed. I think that you can achieve a high level of personal and even professional satisfaction with much less than that. But for many of you, I know you are just getting started, and it can still seem like a daunting task because it's like, as I said, you see all those beautiful photos online. You see all those beautiful photos that people post on Instagram, and you want to get to that point. You want to leapfrog time and just start taking those great photos right away. I mean, so did I. I get it. And you think that, well, maybe if I just watch enough YouTube videos, or maybe if I read enough blogs, maybe if I listen to enough podcasts, my skills are going to grow exponentially faster than everyone else. What you're looking for when consuming all that media is simply the secret to perfection. I'm sorry to say that it does not exist. Because, for one, the goalpost is wrong. We are looking for the secret to perfection. But it's not about being perfect. It's about just doing. Man, I feel like I'm sharing a lot of stories here, but here's another one for you. Buckle up. A photography professor of University of Florida, Jerry Yulesman, I believe I said that right. I hope I did. He was a photography professor. He took his class, his brand new class, and divided it in half into two groups, quantity and quality. So over the whole year, both halves of the class had different goals for the end of the year. The quantity group was graded at the end of the year based on simply how many photos they took. That was it. That was the goalpost. How many photos did you take? Is it more than X? You get an A. The quality group was only allowed to take one photo, but they were graded purely on the excellence of that work. Whew. Now, what Professor Jerry found was that at the end of the year, all of the best photos that were captured by the quantity group, not the group focused on quality. Why is that? Well, the quantity group was out there shooting. They were seeing firsthand what kind of light worked and what didn't, what compositions looked pleasing and what doesn't. They were learning. They were learning by doing. The quality group had to sit around and imagine what a great photo looks like, coming up with these unproven ideas in their head so that when it came time to shoot, they essentially just had to guess. Maybe an educated guess, but still a guess nonetheless. You can find more about that story over at jamesclear.com/repetitions. But the point of that is to strive for progress. Don't strive for perfection. Don't worry about getting the perfect photo. Just take a photo. Now, of course, there will be times where you will need to perform. Me as a wedding photographer, I can't just show up and snapshot 1,000 photos and say, here you go. There does have to be an element of skill, and you get there. But you only get there by just simply taking photos in the beginning. Don't worry about them being perfect. Just shoot. Because photography is a journey. It is not a destination. And it is that journey, that path, that is a little bit different for everybody. It was different for me than it will be for you, than it will be for your neighbor, than it will be for everybody else in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook community. But with that being said, there is kind of a common path that I've seen over and over, and I'm going to lay that out for you right now. You buy yourself a camera, you get yourself a camera for the holidays, and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, this camera is going to make magic. Very quickly, you learn that it does not make magic. So when looking for an answer as to why, you see somebody mention online, maybe in a comment, in a blog, or a YouTube comment, somebody saying that manual is what gives you full control of your camera. And you think, well, if I don't like my photos, that's it. So you start researching manual and you discover that you're right. By controlling your settings, you control the image. That's it. That is the answer. Perfect. You figured it out. So now you go ahead and get your camera. You turn it to M for manual. And for the first time you go out to shoot in manual, all of your photos, they're either way too bright, they're way too dark, or they are super blurry. Ugh, how frustrating is that? Now that right there, that moment of feeling like you figured it out and then having everything come crashing down is the point where most would-be photographers end their journey by either giving up or switching back to auto mode, or worse, their cell phones. But for you, look at you. You're smart. You're dedicated. You are determined to push through this. You just need a little more help to understand what is going on. So at that point, you either decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and waste thousands of hours searching YouTube for tutorials and just still feel lost. Or you download my free ebook, Picture Perfect Camera Settings, over at perfectcamerasettings.com, where I share with you both personal and professional images that I've taken along with the camera settings so that you know how and which settings to change and which ones are important. Again, totally free. perfectcamerasettings.com. So you download that. You start shooting in manual. Still a little rough at first, but for the first time, you feel like you have a sense of direction. And just like when you started driving a car, I'm sure that you weren't great at that right away. You weren't a natural at it. It takes time. You get better. Think about your 16-year-old self driving a car. Think about yourself driving a car today. You're much better today. I promise you. I hope. Learning photography is exactly the same. That part is natural. So you keep at it, and before you know it, you realize, hey, wait a second, I think I got the hang of this thing. And that's when either your spouse or a coworker, a friend, they comment on how great one of your photos is. And you think to yourself, oh, this photo? Oh, actually, that photo was pretty easy. Then, as you're loading more and more, you keep shooting, so you go, and now you're loading more and more photos onto your computer week after week. And you realize, wow, I got 100 photos, or I got 100 folders on my computer called a walk in the park. I should probably get some form of organization for these images, and I should probably explore editing these photos as well. So once again, you start searching YouTube and you discover that, well, Adobe Lightroom is the industry standard photo editor and cataloging system. So you download Adobe Lightroom, maybe you download the free app on your phone or your iPad. You get in there, you're ready to get going, and, well, you become mildly overwhelmed by all the sliders and the editing options. So, being the smart person that you are, you decide to download my free 52 Lightroom presets over at freephotographypresets.com. You watch the included tutorial, and you are off and on your way to editing masterpieces. And then, after a few months, someone you know asks you if you'd be willing to take some photos of their family. And hey, they will even pay you a few bucks. Whoa, this is huge. Nervous, obviously. You rely on your skills that you've been practicing over several months now of shooting. Shoot comes, and with a whirlwind of excitement and nervousness, you complete it. And the family had a great time. Good job. Give yourself a pat on the back for that. That is a huge accomplishment. Now, after editing the photos with some of those 52 free Lightroom presets that you got, looking spiffy, looking nice, you decide to email them to the family, right? You got to get them to the family. Oh, wait a second. That email is way too big. You actually can't send an email with all of those photos. Oh, I know. Then you go and you upload them to Google Drive or Dropbox because, well, they're free services. Oh, but then you remember that you heard your favorite photography podcast host talk about some service called CloudSpot to deliver beautiful looking image galleries. And they also have a free account. And that free account also has free tools to help you sell your images and even make some money. Well, deal. Of course. So then you head over to deliverphotos.com to sign up for a free account, upload your photos, and send them to your clients. Your clients love the photos and the experience that you gave them. In fact, they loved it so much that they told their friends about you. And now one of their friends even wants to book a session with you as well. Whoa, you think, man, this is a long way off from taking photography full time, but for right now, this is fun, and a little bit of extra money isn't bad either. So you look to your last shoot and you think, you know what, it did go well, but I could still use a little help with posing. So you head over to photoposingguide.com to download our free posing ebook filled with more than 80 real poses from real engagement sessions and real weddings with real couples that you can use for inspiration with your family, with your couples, or even models. So you download it, you study the posing guide, and your session goes off without a hitch. Once again, you use CloudSpot to deliver the images, and the family loves them. They love them so much that the daughter even reaches out to you and asks if you would photograph her upcoming wedding? Whoa, geez. Now she knows that you are relatively new to photography and that you have not shot a wedding, but despite that, they still want you to photograph their big day. Once again, with nervousness, but excitement, you accept. You understand the weight of the wedding day and you want to do the best job that you can. So you start watching every 5 mistakes new wedding photographers make videos and listening to some of the top interviews with wedding photographers right here on the Beginner Photography podcast, like interview 257 with Wee Win, who's a wedding photographer and creator of Fearless Photography. Or interview 250 with Gina and Angie, who are wedding photographers who share how to spot the story on a wedding day and how to capture that. Or interview 95 with Jerry Guiones. Oh my gosh, a wedding photography masterclass. After consuming as much as you can to prepare for this day, one theme stands out. Many wedding photographers talk about low light conditions. Low light conditions. So you think to yourself, yeah, I don't think my stock lenses is going to cut it. So you look into buying a new lens. And you see that for more than $2,000, that 70 to 200 2.8 is not in the cards for you right now. So you head over to cameralensrentals.com and you decide to rent that 70 to 200 f2.8 lens for a fraction of the cost. And then you use code Beginner Photography to save yourself an additional 20% off of your rental. Now, after all of the reading, after all of the watching, after all of the listening, you are feeling much better and you are ready to tackle whatever comes your way on the wedding day. While you may be listening right now and think to yourself, wow, I'm feeling pretty good, either for where you're at in photography or feeling pretty good that you now have some sort of roadmap to follow, you're feeling accomplished, that you learned something about photography today. And that's good. That feeling is a good feeling. That's why you come back to get rejuvenated, to learn something. But I want you to remember, I'm going to give you a break check here real quick. Remember that listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, reading blogs, they're all helpful. But none of them will make you a better photographer. And on that note, a new camera won't make you a better photographer. That 70 to 200 2.8 lens won't make you a better photographer. Living in a tropical location won't make you a better photographer. And shooting in RAW certainly won't make you a better photographer. There's only one thing that will make you a better photographer, and that's shooting. Shooting more. Shooting anything. Shooting everything. Now, for me, I always found that I need a bit of a push to get me going. And I realize that you may need that push or some encouragement as well. And that is why this year in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook community, we are doing monthly photo theme challenges, where I post a theme in the group. You'll have a few weeks to capture a photo that matches that same theme. And then at the end of the month, we will choose from the photos from the challenge to be the banner of the group for the month. How cool is that? Why? Why am I doing this? Because I want to be and I want to give you the encouragement and the permission that you need to go out and shoot. Because shooting is the only way that you are going to become a better photographer. So please, make 2022 a year where you stop trying and you just do. Make 2022 a year where you stop watching YouTube videos and you just shoot. Make 2022 the year that you take action. Take action on just one thing that you heard today in this episode, and you will be on your way to becoming a better photographer in 2022. Happy New Year. That's it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better you will be tomorrow. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Start a conversation. Grow together. That is it for this week. Remember, the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.